Yo, everybody, what is up? It's Tuesday night. It's your boys, Dales, Maddie, and we got Pove down below. Whoop, I finally messed it up. It's about time. Pove, Pove and a half. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Breakout player or breakout players. Who's going to do that for the Flyers this year? We need a lot of that to happen this year for the Flyers to really be a serious contender for a playoff position. We also have 14 national broadcasts. We're also going to talk about that as a little fun little second half segment for tonight. So you know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, jump in the chat. It's time to start the conversation. Let's go talk some puck.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D right here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sitsudi, along with the Dark Wing, Brian Daly.
What up?
The Broken One, Rob Povia.
What's up, fellas? I'm glad to see it's a full house. Although I'm a little ticked at Brian. You should be taking the night off, but that's another story. Go on.
And we are brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains that may necessitate you to, miss a show or two, possibly, looking at somebody here, you
can't
might
help what I was going through earlier.
You might want to hit the doc of Dr. Paul Vidal over at Specialized Physical Therapy. Make an appointment with him and then head over to either Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey. And after a few sessions with them, you'll feel much better. And those aches and pains will feel like a distant memory for you. Before you know it, you're back to doing the things you love to do in life, whether it be to go out and just have fun with your friends or with the family or maybe, just feeling better no matter what you're doing in life, whether it being at work and not constantly being in pain, just little things like that go a long way to making your quality of life go up. So Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, they'll get you there. And the poll question for today is the Flyers will have more than one breakout star this season. Obviously, the youth movement very much in full swing here in Philadelphia. But the question is, will that youth movement have any big, major moments this particular season in the form of a young stud coming through and showing what he is capable of for the orange and black? And as well, of course, will there be a strong veteran that will be able to lead the charge to help inspire those young breakout stars? Gentlemen, how do you feel? Do you agree or do you disagree with this poll?
I am going to jump in real quick because I want to make one rule. Michkov's off the board.
What?
Michkov's off the board.
What, you can have more than one breakout season?
No, well, yeah, but I mean, come on, let's get creative. We want to try and take out the obvious answer because obviously we know Michkov is more than likely going to be the guy. Superstar status already, and he's only going to get better. I want to see Tyson Forster and Cam York get their steps and finally take that game to the next level. We've already seen signs from Cam York over the last couple of years that he's shown signs that he can definitely play at this level. We really need him to just kind of boom, jump into that next level and really become the offensive defenseman that we thought he was going to be. Quarterback on the power play, just a strong two-way game. Really need to see him really take those next steps and move forward. I also like Tyson Forster. I think he's a guy that's really he was so close last year. He had a really slow start, started off real cold, but I also think that some of that may have had to do with the rough training camp that Tortorella puts his team through. I think with Tocchet now in charge, it's not going to be as hard of a training camp. So that being said, I think once Forster comes back, if he's healthy game one, we're going to really see him take off this year, and he needs to. He's too good of a shot. He's too good of a player, and just for me, those are my two big candidates, and I don't want to take everybody off the board for you guys. So those are going to be my two guys, York and Typho.
All right, Robbie, how about you?
Now I'm more adamant that Brian should have took this show off, man. How can you take off MM39 off the board? Right? Like, he could have, to me, I think he's the only one that has a realistic shot of having a breakout this season. I hate to be the party pooper, guys, but I think this team as a whole will make progress, and they're worthy of contending for a wild card spot. But I just don't see multiple guys breaking out, not yet at this point in their development, right? To break out, just to be specific, to break out in my eyes, you need to be in the top 25 in your position league-wide. And for forwards, that required an 80-point season last year. The only player I see who sniffs 80 points this season is Matvei Michkov. But, I mean, according to the Hockey News, they point out, they came out with each team's player projections and their point-o-meter, and they have Matvei Michkov at 72 points. So he could easily exceed that and hit that 80-point threshold that I have for a breakout. But if there's anyone else who could blow past his projections and also break out, I do agree with you, Brian. It would be Tyson Forrester. He's projected at 24 points. And we'll get into some good news that the Flyers got in regard to his playing status. But assuming he plays close to a full season, if not a full season, he's going to crush that projection. So he could be that breakout star, but your breakout star is MM39. I don't give a fuck what you say, bro. I put him up for a reason.
All right, then. So Robbie's saying, fuck your couch, Bri.
I love it. Listen, go against me. I love it. Like, come on. This is all about having fun. Let's do this. Come on.
And meanwhile, Priz is saying, what defines a breakout season? If one of these guys like a Michkov goes bananas and becomes a league-wide star as Kaprizov did, does that not count? Or do you mean has a career year out of nowhere? Well, a career year, I would argue and say that would be not a breakout season, but it will certainly be a big part of that. Breakout, I would say more like for the young studs, for the young prospects, because they haven't had that season just yet. I mean, Michkov, he had a pretty damn good rookie campaign. So, I mean, if he has another breakout year and avoids a sophomore slump, and it's like, all right, cool. Things are going good for that, And as for the poll on my side of things, will there be more than one breakout star? I am going to say agree. I think by necessity, there will be more than one breakout star. Because if this team is going to be successful, even moderately successful, and when I say moderate, I mean they are a bubble team in the wild card and still possibly missing. At the end of the day, I would say you would need to have more than one breakout star. So I'll agree. And I think there'll be more than one breakout star for this season. For the breakout stars for me, I'm going to go out and say, you know what? Just because I want him to succeed and I want him to be a big part of the Flyers' future, I know there's been talk about him getting traded, but fuck it. I'm going to roll with it. Tippett. I want Tippett to have a breakout season. I want him to be like, all right, let's see him pull out all the stops. And Bri did steal one from me. I was going to say York. I think Yorkin has a huge opportunity to really thrive because he was thriving last year. So I think he has a chance to thrive really big this year. Even though he's been around for a while, I want to see Zegras have a breakout year. A breakout year with a new team, I think, is the best way to define that.
I was going to ask you if Zegras does well, if he exceeds his projection according to the Hockey News at 65 points. Would that be a breakout for Zegras, or has he already broken out at this point in his early time with Anaheim? I mean, that's why I considered him as well, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Zegras, for me, it would count more as it's a breakout season with a new team. I'm sure he's already had his breakout season as a rookie. He had it with Anaheim. But for a brand new squad, yeah, the potential of him having a great year this year, like, all right, he had a breakout year for his new team. So that's how I would label that.
Right. Sure. I mean, for him to set, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, if he were to reach my 80-point threshold for being a breakout star, would that be a career high for Trevor Zegras?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think he's only maxed out at like anywhere between 62 to 65 points in his career so far. So I wouldn't necessarily say that he's fully broken out yet. I don't think we've seen his full potential yet. We have seen a little bit more of a guy like Mitch Krause. So part of the reason why I wanted to throw the curveball to you guys. But for Zegras, this could be an absolute breakout year for him because if we go by the definition, 80 points or more, or like Priz was saying, that Kirill Kaprizov type of season where he just comes out of nowhere, I would definitely say that that's definitely a breakout year for Zegras. And there's a ton of candidates on this roster that can fall into that category. Obviously, we got your main guys. I think Mitch Cobb's probably number one on everybody's list. I would say Zegras is probably number two, York three, Tipper 4, and Typho 5. Those are the five guys that I think have the best opportunity to have that breakout. And yeah, so for Zegras, I wouldn't say he broke out in Anaheim. I think we've only gotten a small piece of what he can actually do. And to put him on a line with potentially Dvorak and Michkov, I think we're really going to see Trevor Zegras have a breakout year.
All right. That'd be great because that'd be awesome because that would be just like a huge shot in the arm, like Mitchkov was. A huge shot in the arm for a team that is just clamoring for a boom period of young studs coming into the organization, and getting that feel for it. And even though Zegras has been around for a little bit, it still would be a shot in the arm because Zegras is not old. So it is a perfect opportunity to put some adrenaline into the Flyers and get them going further into the right direction.
Sure. I feel like you bring him in as a nice asset, a nice free agent, right? Really, it's just him performing up to expectations. Like if he were to hit his 65-point projection, to me, that's just a thing going right for your way that aids your team for taking that next step. That's why you bring in new blood, like we talked about last week, Brian, right? That you can't just rest on your prospects. You got to bring in other talent around to fill in the hole. So to me, that's just a hole that's filled, especially if he can provide quality minutes at the center ice position or even on the wing, right? Mitch Koff, just because he's a rookie, right? And if he were to hit the 72 to 80 point threshold, to me, that's a breakout star. I kind of come from a fantasy standpoint where if you have a guy that's got a low ADP and then all of a sudden he's cracking that top 10%, that top 10, that top 25 even, right? That's a breakout star for sure. So I still think a lot of things can go right for this team and they could be that contending wild card team. And where Mitchkov, and we saw not only did he put up, a lot of goals. I believe he ranked first in rookies in goals and third or fourth in points. I think third. Just going off the top of my head there. Acknowledging that, right? A lot of those points were scored in crunch time. Late third period, overtime, game winners. I could see Bitchkoff rising, breaking out, and carrying this team on his back and really cementing that the rebuild is time to cease and it's time to now put up or shut up.
Yeah. And I think that this is definitely one of those moments where it's just like it's a challenge. And it's a challenge of just like, okay, you have the best opportunity available to you with this team. You can take the bull by the horns and push forward with it. So definitely an opportunity there for them, as many of the other young talents that are rolling around the organization. Benny's saying Alex Bump won't be 80 points, but he will break out. Well, if he had 80 points, then that would be insane. But if breakout, like in the sense of like, he'll have a big like impact for the time that he's on the Flyers, that'd be great. I mean, like I said before, he actually stood out for the time that he had his opportunity with the Flyers. So the hope is that that can transition into him
Right.
being more of a full-time here.
In terms of that, you could have a good debut, right? Like Mitchkov had a good debut, but what did we do going into last season? Temper expectations, especially if a young kid does make this roster, right? Now, if he put up like 20 to 35 points, right? Maybe with limited ice time, right? Hey, that would be a great showing. Anymore, you could argue that maybe that's potentially a breakout on a smaller scale, but I'm talking where all of a sudden you're with the elites of the league, right? You got to start aiming your sights higher, right? We've been down in the basement for far too long, people. Don't get used to it. You got to start measuring up, and this team will and can measure up.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm actually at the point now where I'm kind of curious if Alex Bump even makes the roster. Not necessarily for anything bad, but just because is he going to get the steady amount of minutes that he's going to need to hit, that let's just go out on a limb and say Benny's 80 points. He just needs steady minutes for that. Right now, top 6 is pretty locked down, and he would need to get those top 6 minutes to get there. I think he could definitely have an 80-point year in the AHL, which is where I think he's going to wind up personally. But I also think he's going to be on the taxi squad to where if there's any injury or any issues moving forward throughout the season, Bump is going to be one of the first guys called up. I think that could wind up being a situation with Jetlachenko now, because apparently the CHL and the NHL are working out a deal where guys who are 19 years old can start playing in the AHL. So that's
ahead of time this season versus waiting for next year.
Yeah, nothing set in stone yet, but apparently they're working on the agreement. So that's going to happen this year.
More options then gives
more
options.
Exactly.
And I mean, hey, look, the Flyers received really good news in regard to Tyson Forrester, and that would have been more of a bump to Bump's chances of making the team, because filling that left wing role for the Flyers there. I double used the pun. Yeah, I did. But the good news is that Danny B confirmed that Forster is on track to start the 2025-6 NHL season on time, despite that elbow infection he suffered earlier in the offseason while playing for Team Canada. After initially being, serious concern, Forster's treatments, they've reportedly gone really well, putting him in a position to avoid at least missing significant time and return, potentially for the start of the season. If he begins the season on time, like we were talking about before, that is a really big feather in his cap of breaking out this season. And, if you want to break out with us, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell for notifications.
Well played. Well played. Got John here saying, what's up, y'all? I made it home. Still have physical therapy at home, but 5 months in the hospital is way too long. Absolutely.
Okay.
This is awesome news to hear, man. We are very happy that you're back home, John. And we're very happy that you're here with us tonight. So good on you, brother. We're very, very happy for you.
Real quick to bump off what Robbie was saying. We've seen Tyson Forrester already kind of sniff that role where he's, going to be that 30, 35 goal scorer they expected him to be. Again, if he can get off to that fast start, if he can be there game one, which it sounds like he's on the track to be, I think we see him have a monster year too. And that will potentially bump him from the third line up into possibly the top 6, depending on how things are playing. Let's say Zegras winds up on the left wing being centered by Dvorak and Michkov on the right wing. Who's to say that Dvorak doesn't get bumped down, Zegras move to center, and potentially have Tyson Forster on either the left or the right side? So, there's a lot of potential for this team to be able to create a lot of offense. And that to me is something that I don't recall myself saying in the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's good to hear like positives, like to get the positives of just like, you put the investment in and you see the growth, and it's like now to see the positive fruits of that labor coming through. It's just like it makes you feel good about the situation. It makes you feel good about how the progress is being made from this team. As obviously we were watching a team that had fallen on its ass, and now it's starting to pick itself back up. It's a process, but it's in the process of picking itself back up. So, and it's good to see that there are, good things happening, and the fruits of the labor are starting to bear. you um, John saying, I just hope the Flyers make the wild card. I just want to sniff the playoffs again. I mean, the potential's there for them to be there in that race. Will they make it? I don't know. It's tough because you got a lot of teams that are going to be clamoring for it. Some teams that won't go away. Some teams that they're always going to be competitive, and they're always going to give you a fight, whether they dropped out of the top 3 spots in the division and they're clamoring to get back in, or if they're just starting to get themselves back up and running, looking at Ottawa and Montreal, for example, and they can be tough to deal with because, they got a taste of the playoffs and now you just want more. So it'll be a challenge, but the potential's there. The potential's there for them to compete. The question is, can they make it? Hopefully. Let's see here. So, as for the breakout stars and what have you, on the other side of that coin, who do you think really are going to be the veterans that are going to hold down the fort? Like, who do you see really kind of like to the opposite of that, and to that same token, you have your breakout stars. Who's going to be the veterans that are going to be a big part of helping that breakout happen, in your opinion?
Well, Coots is one of them. He played really well down the stretch, and hopefully he takes that next step further removed from his injury, and shows that he could lead by example and be really helpful for the young kids and teach as the captain. So I think it all starts with him. I mean, you got to start to look at Sanheim as a vet now in this league, and as he takes in younger defensemen under his wing, York being one of them, potentially. Igor Zamula, potentially even Oliver Bonk if he were to make this team. But even still down the road, after potentially, in the AHL. And I mean, I will say too, in terms of Bump's chances for making this squad, right? Playing on a line with, say, a Couturier and Tippett, it depends on, lower brow guys, but I think, that could really aid towards player development. That's what the veterans, they're going to be their key job on this, for this season moving forward.
Absolutely. Benny's saying TK. Priz is saying Risto.
Yeah. I mean, these are good too. I mean, TK, he's got the second highest projection on this team, right? He's got to, solidify himself, get him back into the 30 goal plateau. That would be a great way to go about it, by leading on the score sheet and showing guys how to finish on plays. This team had a lot of great offensive pressure, but then failed to finish on a lot of plays. So that'll be a key function.
Right. Priz saying Risto gonna lead his ass out the deadline. As for, for you, Bry, what do you think in terms of veterans wise? Who do you think is going to lead the charge and hold the fort down and really be a part of that, aid in breakout stars for this year?
Well, I think Rob nailed the first one. It's got to be Coots. There's a reason why he gave him the captaincy in the first place. This has got to be the guy who's going to not only necessarily just be a voice on the ice and in the locker room. He's going to have to be the example as well. So for me, Coots is definitely number one. Sanheim's going to be the guy on the defensive side with Risto. Those are going to be two guys that really need to help Jamie and Yorkie and even Emil Andre when he gets his opportunity to show them the ropes, get these guys back on par, especially Drysdale. Drysdale was the best defenseman in his draft. He hasn't exactly shown that talent in the NHL. It's hard to do that when you spend a lot of time hurt, but I thought last year was a great step in the right direction. And I think we're going to see a little bit more out of him. I would love to see him be a breakout star this year too, going back to the other side of the coin. But Dvorak would be another guy that I would like to see. I know he signed a 1-year deal, more than likely a trade piece at the deadline. But to really help these guys and help Coots kind of aid in helping these guys able to start winning a little bit more faceoffs, especially in their own zone. Cates, Zegras, anybody who has to take a face-off. So that's going to be a big one for me. And I think that's it. Yeah, Coots, Dvorak, Risto, and Sanheim for me are going to be those guys that really need to step up and be leaders on the ice.
All right, then. All right, so with that, were there any other breakout stars that we wanted to acknowledge as possibilities?
You got to look at the young pups that could potentially make this team. We talked about Jetlichenko, Denver Barkey, Oliver Bonk. Let's say any of those guys have such an outstanding camp that they cannot be denied. They'll be up there. But a dark horse, and this is a guy that had a really good showing at the 2025 World Juniors Summer Showcase this year, and that's
Whoa. Okay, so we lost Rob on that one.
We'll get him back. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Just all right then. That was just sudden. He's here and he's gone.
What if he just hit the wrong button?
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so while Rob is on his way back, we'll get back to what he was saying. Anyway, Bri, as for, breakout stars wise, and as for the Flyers situation when it comes to, how are they going to handle the ebbs and flows of the 82 game season? In your opinion, is there a time where, I know there was last year where a lot of people were thinking, well, since the Flyers were not going to make the playoffs, would it be a better idea to sit some young guys every now and again, or to let them rest instead of being hurt? How do you feel about that philosophy? Do you feel like that's a philosophy that's really not necessary, or you feel like, well, why? Like they're going to have to get used to it at some point. They can't be babied.
I think it depends on their situation, honestly, coming into the NHL. I think some of these guys play a ton of hockey moving into the draft. And then on top of it, they're going to developmental camp. They're going back to juniors. They're going back to Europe or wherever that they're coming from. So I think there is definitely a need for some of these guys. Leo Carlson's a good example. He was playing a ton of hockey before getting his shot with the Ducks in Anaheim. And Mitch Cobb, I think, was a little bit necessary because, again, he was another guy, played a ton of hockey heading into the draft and even coming over to the NHL. Sometimes these guys, it's better to give them limited games early on in their rookie year, not to hinder anything more than just to give them some rest every once in a while. Because remember, now you got Memorial Cup, you got World Juniors, you got the draft, you got combines, you have NHL preseason, you have all these games, all this hockey that you're playing that, you don't want to burn these kids out early. So to me, I think it's a good philosophy. I like seeing some of these young guys that are coming and playing a lot of hockey and being able to get some rest. Sometimes it's not about winning the Calder. Sometimes it's about being the best player that you can be, despite all that. So I'm totally on board of giving guys rest and playing them limited games if it means that in the long run, in the bigger picture, these guys are going to be key pieces in leading you to Stanley Cup. That means more to some of these guys than some of the personal accolades.
Right. Definitely speaking, it'd be good for development wise.
There he is.
Hey, Robbie.
Sorry about that, boys. My Wi-Fi cut out. Apologies.
All good.
I don't know where I left off, but I don't want to interrupt the conversation.
Swedish World Juniors.
Yeah. Jack Bergman, Swedish center. He's 19 years old. He's a dark horse, but he could contend for a potential roster spot with a strong showing. At least, really heightened his hat in the prospect pool with, like I said, an outstanding performance in the World Junior Showcase this year. So that would be like a dark horse. And that's, like I said, I believe in one candidate and one candidate only. But if we have to come up with some other names, that's another name.
True. That is true. I mean,
I can't hate on the candidate, though. I can't. It's hard to. But sometimes, I mean, if you guys don't realize by now that I just like to shake things up every once in a while, then it's fun. It's fun.
Oh, no.
It's fun for me.
What do we call that? Subverting expectations? Yeah. Just leaving everyone.
Exactly. Yes. I like that.
There's nothing wrong with rules, but I like to break them.
They're meant to be broken.
Right. So,
because I'm wearing the big nut shirt. That's why. I'm ornery tonight. Let's go.
So let's see here. By the way, so I know we were talking about breakout stars and whatnot. Greg's saying what's up, by the way. What's up, Greg?
What up, Greg?
I took a look just for the shits and giggles of it, and I saw the NHL opening night lineup for, ironically, it's a Tuesday on October 7th. So we will get to do live reactions to opening night like we did, I think, last season too, actually.
We had a lot of games fall on a Tuesday night last year.
Yeah, so you know what? Tuesdays are starting to become the hockey action nights, apparently. So that's not a bad thing for us by any stretch of the imagination. But apparently the lineup is at 5 p.m. They've got the Blackhawks and the Panthers. Then at 8, they've got the Penguins and the Rangers. And then at 10:30 to close out the night on the triple header is Colorado and Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to say this. I understand why you want to put Pittsburgh in there because you still have the star power in Pittsburgh. So I understand that, even though Pittsburgh might very well not be a playoff team this year and may take another step back this year. Maybe, but we'll see. As for the Rangers, obviously there's question marks about them, but they should be competitive in the division. And then the Avalanche and Kings, I mean, we know the Kings are probably going to make the playoffs, and so are the Avalanche. So you kind of, all right, that's a strong matchup in the West, an interdivisional matchup. As for the Panthers and the Blackhawks, I got to say, I don't know what the fuck the NHL's thinking about that one. I understand you have Bedard, but at the same time, the hype for him is not, I'm not going to say it's over, but it's clearly, it's like, okay, well, it's not his rookie year now. I understand when it was his rookie debut. I get that to an extent, but I just kind of feel like what's going on with that? I just felt like there were some questions I had for the opening night. There wasn't that big rivalry match. I mean, the Penguins and Rangers are rivals, but it's not like they're both, like the Penguins might not be competitive at all this year. So, I don't know. It left me kind of scratching my head a little bit,
So with the Panthers and the Blackhawks, you're marketing your future face of the league in Connor Bedard. That's the biggest reason why. Pittsburgh, you're continuing to do what you're doing with Crosby. Crosby continues to be the face of the league.
Right.
And he's still a major player as far as pulling ratings in. So, that's probably why you went there. with those two teams. And then obviously you have Colorado and the Kings, which it's always a good matchup. It's always entertaining, especially now that the Kings are semi-relevant. And we'll see how they do this year. I'm not going to give them full transparency. I'm not going to give them the full respect. You know,
I
still
love
a Ducks fan after all.
I love it. I love it.
That old South California rivalry, that SoCal rivalry between the Kings and the Ducks.
That's so Cali. That's so Cali.
Meanwhile, the Sharks are up north just saying, yeah, we suck. Just saying, you know.
They might be in the market to take Carey Price's contract. Apparently, the Habs are talking about trading it.
I mean, hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. Because, I mean, the Habs are probably looking at now skies being the limit after having made the playoffs last year. So, and I don't blame them. They have a very fun team.
Cap relief. They want to make some moves this offseason.
Exactly.
Potentially leave themselves some cap space to make some moves this season to try and make the team a little bit better than last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got a taste of the playoffs last year. If the potential's there for them to be competitive again, absolutely.
He's not playing again. Like I'd be very surprised if Carey Price ever suits up for anybody ever again.
No, and you know and for him, it's a good thing that he did step away. You know, because he was going through a lot of substance abuse issues, and it was good to see that he put himself, you know, and he took care of himself in that moment. You know, because it's just for too long, you see a lot of people, a lot of players, they get that mentality of like, no, team comes first. And I understand that, you know, you want to put everything into the team because, you know, that's your team. But sometimes you got to step away to take care of yourself. And it was good to see that he did do that, you know? So,
oh boy, this chat's already, it's gone. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I love you all. I love you all.
Same.
Greg. Just Greg.
But yeah, just found out that Carey Price is 2 years and 2 days younger than I am. Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't realize his birthday was technically 2 days after mine.
Chris saying he's ready to fuck the Blues, though. I mean, who knows? The Blackhawks might still dominate that rivalry. Anyway, as for the next bit of talk for us here, before we dive into what we got coming up for the Flyers and their national broadcast schedule, was there anything else we wanted to talk about breakout-wise before jumping into it?
Nope. I think we covered everybody that's we're talking about.
All right, cool. Just wanted to be sure. All right, then. I guess it is time. Let's get into it. So the Flyers have 14 national games coming up. And it's interesting with the layout. Let me just take that off there so that everybody can get a better view of it. So with 14 games starting off on Tuesday, October 28th, early into the season, of course, as always, not a surprise. You're going to have a Battle of Pennsylvania national broadcast game. I mean, that's a given. If you don't do that at least once a year, then I don't know what you're doing with your NHL broadcasts for the year. You're fucking up. So the Penguins and them on 28th, and then they've got Flyers and the Sabres, which is interesting. I guess they want to throw back to the 90s and the early 2000s with that one. They got two, actually. So December 3rd and the 18th. That's interesting. Huh. 3? Where's the third one? Holy shit, yeah. It's just in between the Blackhawks and the Flyers. Jesus.
Which that's just a nice marquee one, right? You know, Mitch Call versus Bedard. That one's going to draw this, you know, you got a 9 p.m. game, a nice prime time game. Everybody's home on the East Coast, Central Time Zone for Priz and the likes of them, Blackhawks fans. But that's going to be interesting. I mean, they're two of the top players from the 2023 NHL draft. they get linked back to the 2021 IIHF Under 18 World Junior Championship. So that's great for ratings. That's hopefully that will be a good game.
Hopefully, I think it will be. I think
100%, 100% it will be. And to top it off, it's the day that everybody really goes on Christmas break, unless you work in retail or the restaurant industry, or you work in an industry that you have to wind up working on Christmas Eve. This is the 23rd is basically when everybody goes on break. So people are going to be watching, especially when it's on TNT.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hell, if we're doing a show that week, we could do live reactions to it. We could just have Briz shit talk the Flyers the entire time.
Yeah, Christmas Eve. That's great. Right.
Let's see what else we got here. So literally, damn, that's crazy. So Penguins starting it off, 2 Sabres, Blackhawks, then the Sabres again. And then you have the Penguins and the Flyers again. This time it will be in Pittsburgh for that go around. And I just realized that Tuesday the 28th, we will get to do live reactions to that. Nice. That is awesome. Well, maybe we'll catch the tail end of it since it would be starting at 6. Anyway, what else we got here? We've got the Flyers and the Rangers. Again, that's a no-brainer to have as a national broadcast. That'll be from New York. Yep. And then we've got the Bruins and Flyers. Again, no-brainer. Another rivalry matchup. Flyers and Capitals, another rivalry. Now, Flyers and Blue Jackets. Now, that one's interesting. But I don't know if it would necessarily be for the Johnny Hockey connection. But it may be for that, too, possibly. It has only been a year. But all the same, though, it's interesting to see some teams pop up here that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah. ESPN plus Hulu game, so it is national, but for our streaming folk.
Right. And then Flyers and Red Wings. They do try to push the Flyers and Red Wings, I feel. They always try to do a national broadcast of it, and I get why they try to do it because of 97, but it's just like that's the only time they've ever faced each other. Actually, I'm sorry. I think they had one other playoff series with each other, but you only face each other twice. It's like the day that the Flyers are more consistent in the playoffs, and the Red Wings for that matter, since they can't get their shit together for some reason. Maybe the potential could be there for them to face off with each other again in the playoffs, but both teams got to make it to the dance before that could really become a thing, Flyers and Bruins again, and then Flyers and Devils only once. Okay, now that's a little shocking. I have to say, that does surprise me. Now, maybe that's just because of my boiling blood, burning hatred for the Devils, that I'm surprised that they wouldn't want to take advantage of that rivalry. But, only one time, and it's going to be of course, it'll be at the Rock. Can't be one in Philly. And then the Flyers and Red Wings again to finish it off, and both of them in Little Caesars Arena. Interesting. So... well, that one is a streaming one. Anyway, so yeah.
Two on the red. That was actually originally supposed to be it was changed from home away. It was supposed to be at what is our stadium called again? Xfinity Mobile Arena. Yeah, there we go. But they play them a different. They had to change it up due to schedule conflict, probably something else going on, some sort of event. So that was odd to see. Not only they're playing twice on a national stage, but both out in Detroit. But that had to get switched. That originally was going to be in Philadelphia, and that's key because that's April 9th game. As you're having valuable points on the line, hopefully. That's the hope, right?
Right.
The thing that sticks out to me is the entire season series with the Sabres is going to be nationally televised. My question is why? I mean, there's not really a huge rivalry. You're not really looking at huge star power going up against huge star power. I mean, they usually put on a good game, but to have the entire season series on national TV, that one kind of scratches my head a little bit. Red Wings makes sense because there's some recency bias. These two teams have been going back and forth, and it's been physical. These two teams are starting to not like each other. So you definitely have an entertainment factor there with the Red Wings. But, I mean, the rest of these are kind of par for the course. It's all, for the most part, Metro Division rivalry. And, division rivalries always make for a good time.
Right.
Yeah. All total, you got 5 games on TNT, 4 on ESPN, 3 on ESPN Plus, and 2 on ABC. So that's some good bar watching right there. And then the NBC Sports Philadelphia broadcast schedule is due to be released shortly, but the Flyers open the regular season October 9th, as we talked about, Brian, a few weeks back, with the 2-time defending champion Panthers coming in. So the year one of Rick Tocchet era, they're going to be, he's coming from the broadcasting realm, so they're hooking a brother up. You know what I mean? Trying to get some media notoriety for what he's building here in Philadelphia.
Right.
You know what? That's actually a very good point, Rob. That could be another reason why they're televising the Flyers 14 times and mostly on TNT, because former TNT employee Rick Tocchet will be the head coach. So, a lot of eyes are going to be on him. A lot of eyes are going to be on this team.
Back.
Exactly. And, a lot of eyes are going to be on Mitchkov to see how he, takes his sophomore year. Does he hit the slump? Does he, repeat last year? Does he, exceed last year? So, a lot of questions. A lot of eyes are going to want to be on the Flyers this year. And also, are they finally going to, break the streak and find their way back to the playoffs?
Right.
One thing, by looking at the schedule, that stands out to me, only 2 of the 14 are day games. Both, ironically, versus Boston at 3 and 3:30 respectively. And I think that heavily favors the Flyers, since they've historically played poorly in day games, and young players will naturally struggle with the mental side of the game, getting prepared at an earlier hour. So I think that favors the Flyers, as maybe even the league is starting to notice some things going on here in Philadelphia, that we want them on at prime time at night, versus that weekend early game. Because Saturday is 3 p.m. and then the other one's Sunday, 3:30 p.m. You know what I mean? So and that's even good too, because that's good viewing ratings for the weekend with people home from work. So unless you work remote, maybe you're home all the time like me.
Well, Priz was saying, does the Flyers and Blue Jackets matchup feel like the league is viewing this as a potential playoff race matchup, since that would be falling on March 24th, the last full month of the season? I don't know if the NHL is necessarily viewing it as that, but I mean, I'm not saying that the potential isn't there, because I mean, the Blue Jackets last year had an amazing year. They put on one hell of a performance. Did they make the playoffs? No, but did they make a strong showing? They absolutely did. As for the Flyers, will they be in the hunt by that time? That I'm not sure about. Like I said, the potential's there. The question
where his head is.
Right. I mean, it could be. I'm not saying it could be, but it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if that is what ESPN is thinking. I mean, if that's the case, it's nice to have them have faith that we're going to be competitive in March. That'd be nice.
I mean, there's definitely one question here with Columbus that I have. I think last year they caught lightning in a bottle. I think everything with Johnny and Matt and all that tragic stuff that's been going on. I think they caught lightning in a bottle last year. I think they played really, really well for Johnny. The question is are they going to be able to contain it? Are they going to be able to build off it from last year? Or was it just a flash in the pan, everybody playing a little extra effort for Johnny to try and win something for him? So that's going to be my question for Columbus is, how do they respond after last year? Personally, I don't know if they can be. It's a tough division. We'll see. Do I think it could be a potential? Yeah, I think it could be a potential playoff matchup this year. Meh. Maybe down the road, for sure. I still think Columbus has a lot of question marks, in my opinion, before they become a legit playoff threat.
Let's see here. Priz is saying, I mean, Darlene, Power, both number 1 overall. Y'all choose Jet over Consta. Risto, former Sabres early pick. Sabres were considered a team on the rise, then went backwards last year. And then we got Joe saying, I don't mind hockey on TNT. Last season when I tried to watch the games, there was like 5 goals or so that got scored, and that camera wasn't even on the play. And, he said, oops, games on ESPN. I don't like that. Oh, okay, he was talking about ESPN. Never mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, TNT is usually the good one.
I mean, I will say this. For the way that this broadcast is playing out, it's interesting that you do have the whole entire Sabres Flyers situation. Again, though, that's that is a good point, Brian, because it's like, wouldn't you just take off, like have the Sabres and Flyers only once on the national broadcast and maybe slot in another Devils game with the Flyers and another Capitals game in there? Because those are 2 rivals. So wouldn't that make more sense to have the rivalry matchups for the Flyers? Because usually the rivalry games are the intense ones. I'm not saying they don't have those in here. It's just, I know the Caps and Flyers may not be as intense as the Penguins and the Flyers. And I think you can trade between the Flyers and Rangers and the Flyers and Devils, just depending upon which ones pissed you off the most recently. Since they're both in so close proximity to each other. But as for the Sabres and Red Wings in particular, like those kind of matchups, I'm scratching my head at a little bit. Those are the ones I get a little confused by. Me personally.
I'm sure some of these games are going to be subject to change at some point. So I guess it's all going to depend on where teams are kind of falling, how they're starting. So I'm not saying that, this is going to be set in stone, because it could be subject to change. But I mean, if it is set in stone and this is what it's going to be, and certain games aren't going to get flexed out of the spot, which I don't know if the NHL ever really does that. But it's just interesting to me that, of the teams to put in here 3 times on the national broadcast with the Flyers, you pick the Sabres. That just.
I guess those were the filler games. That's the only thing I could think of. Maybe those were days where they just didn't have anything hockey-wise, or they were days that they didn't have something big going that potentially for that schedule. So they figured, screw it, we'll throw this game on for hockey. It's the only thing I could think of as to why the whole season series for the Sabres and the Flyers is being nationally broadcasted. That's all I got on that one. Let's see. Chris saying, yeah, a lot of these later in the season seem like projecting. Theoretically, the Red Wings got a goalie, their biggest need. The Sabres may actually end the streak, and Columbus based on last year. So yeah, that is the national broadcast schedule for the Flyers. Few head scratchers. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it has to be always rivalries for the national broadcast. It's just that if you're going to mix it up every now and again, it's like you don't need to do the entire season series. You can do a one-off, and I think it'll still serve the same purpose.
No, I mean, for the most part, I think this schedule is going to be highly entertaining. I think we're going to get some great coverage of just some really, really good physical hockey. Because, like I said, the majority of this is all Metro Division. And I also do think that the Flyers having 14 nationally televised games is going to do wonders to get the national media media's eyes on them, get this team some recognition, say, oh, maybe this team isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Maybe this team is closer to the playoffs than we thought it was going to be. So it can definitely answer some questions for where this team is heading in the next couple of years. That's just me, though.
Right. Yeah, Priz was saying would have loved to seen a Flyers-Ducks national game. And then Joe's saying, why is all 3 Sabres games on national games? Should be more games versus the division where we're in with the Islanders and another game versus the Capitals. That's actually a good point. He just brought up something really great. There is no games against the Islanders on here. That's interesting.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, there's not a single game against the Islanders. I mean, I know you kind of forget the Islanders exist sometimes because you got the Rangers, but at the same, but all seriousness though, like when you think about it, like yeah, there is a rivalry between the Flyers and the Islanders, and it's not that far back compared to the Red Wings and compared to the Sabres. That's actually a lot more recent. I mean, the bubble wasn't that long ago; it was only 5 years back. So I don't know. And then the following year during the pandemic season, the Flyers and the Islanders had some intense games during that year. I still remember that the game they came back in and won in overtime. I think it was like 5-5 and they won 6-5 in OT. It was a ridiculous fucking game they had that year. But anyway, so yeah, that is the schedule for the Flyers. There are 14 games that they've got for national broadcast. Obviously, one thing that we can say about ESPN is they're not afraid to mix things up. They've done that not just with the Flyers. They've done that with all teams, actually. They've done it with most teams. They'll throw out a game that you don't expect to see. Like, I think last year they nationally broadcasted the Sharks game, which I thought was like, why are you even bothering? This is not the team you nationally broadcast for the NHL.
Well, it's the reason we're seeing the Sabres too. You got to see some of these young, future elite players, and with San Jose, you want to see, Celebrini play, right? You want to see Will Smith play, so you got to throw them in there here and there. But yeah, I agree with the fam. You want to see more of the marquee matchups and not so. But a lot of it's just based on the schedule too, and when these TV channels and streaming platforms have the rights to show the following games and how it works out with the Flyer schedule. 14, that's pretty remarkable.
That is. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, I'm all for it. The more nationally broadcasted games, I'm down with it. Totally fine with that.
It's more games I could stream. I love it.
100%.
So we got Anton in here. What's up, brother?
What up, Anton?
He's saying, hey, guys, I missed the beginning, so if you talked about this already, sorry. Do you agree with me that the Flyers should sign Hart since he is better than any goalie we have? We need a goalie. No. The thing about Hart, it's not a question of his skill. It's the fact that he will be a distraction. He will be a massive distraction for this squad. No matter the fact that the case got dismissed and it got thrown out or what have you, it doesn't matter. The fact is that Hart will be a distraction, and we don't need that for this squad. We just need us to focus on the continued development of this team.
Well, I got bad news for you. And the Priz shared this post with me from David Pagnotta saying there are several teams, including the Flyers, who are interested in signing goaltender Carter Hart. Reportedly, those teams continue to wait. Of course, the league needs to make a decision to determine whether he's eligible to even play first. But, I agree with you that it could be a distraction. But if you want to take the argument that Philadelphia has a deficit between the pipes, I think you have to be interested. And that's been the MO of this front office, is that whether it works out or not, they're involved in the phone conversations. They're doing the work. And you like to see that.
Yeah. He definitely deserves an opportunity to play again. He's taking the time off. He went through the due diligence. He went through the courts. Everything, I guess you can see, kind of worked out in his favor. Flyers went out and signed Dan Vladar. You have two young goaltenders that are just about ready to make their way up to the NHL roster. I think we're not going to see Bjarnason until next year. I think you bring in Carter Hart and you create a whole nother logjam and a whole nother situation where, what do you do with Bjarnason now? What do you do with Zavragan? I think they're in a good spot goalie-wise for the future. Maybe not right now, but I think if you can get Vladar and Erison to do even just a little bit more than what they did last year, I think the Flyers are going to be in a better spot goaltender-wise. I agree they need a goaltender, but I don't think Carter Hart's going to be the guy, especially how kind of things went down. I think he needs a fresh start. I think he's going to wind up signing in a whole nother city. I think he signs with another team. And I don't think, honestly, I don't see it working out with the Flyers and Carter Hart, which is how kind of things went. Not saying that there's any bad blood or anything like that, but I just think he needs, I think a fresh start for Carter Hart will be better off for him instead of coming back to a city where, kind of how everything kind of went down. So I think Hart does get a job, but I just don't think it's Philly.
Right. It almost brings back the memories of what he went through. You want a fresh start. You need to get your head in check, especially in the utmost, most important position, and that's goaltender. Yeah, I believe it's a fresh start for him. Maybe, Brian, I'm just hoping that he comes back to Philly because that way I could wear the jersey again. I spent a lot of money on that jersey, man.
No, I understand. I get it.
I'm just hoping for it. But you never know. I mean, what if Vladar or even Erison gets moved, right? There was some talk about Sam Erison potentially being moved last year. If either one of them perform well and the Flyers are on the outside looking in, they might move one of those goaltenders, and then your replacement in terms of Carter Hart in his second edition being more of a stopgap. That would be the only way I see it, but I agree. I agree with you, and I don't know where your head is, Maddie, but I think a fresh start would do probably Carter Hart a lot of good.
I will say I saw the comment that Priz put down here. I think actually he could go to Utah. I mean, think about it. Like, it's a team that's new, and so they don't have any stigma attached to them. And at the same time, you can go there, start over. The hockey fans there are probably going to be, they're fresh-faced to the league. So you've got the potential there. Actually, I think that any team that's been around, like you could even argue Seattle, like teams that ultimately the fans are newer. So it's a little different. It's a lot harder to come back to an established market after this, because the media scrutiny is just going to be up your ass, especially in Philly. The media is ruthless. And it'll be the same thing if he was to go to like a place like, if he went to the Rangers, if he went to Chicago, or if he went to Montreal, or if he went to any of the or Toronto, any of those places, media will be up your ass. Yeah. So it's just like, you know what? I would say go to one of those squads. It'd be so much easier for you to restart, at one of those locations.
Rob's scenario is the only way that I absolutely see Carter Hart ever coming back to Philly. Is if Erison plays good enough, they ship him off somewhere, get a nice return, and he can bring Carter Hart back in. But with Hart, the thing is, he needs to be in a position where he can essentially be the starter. Because that's what he is. And he's probably going to take some time to get back into game shape. It's probably going to take a couple months to get back to being a goaltender that he was. But in order for that to happen, he's got to get the playing time. I just don't see it with where the goaltending situation is right now. Edmonton makes sense. Utah makes sense. I saw Priz say Seattle. That's another area that makes sense. Maybe even
you could San Jose.
Well, San Jose has.
There's Oscar. There's Oscarov, and then there's. I mean, you could put him in there to platoon if you want to.
Okay, that's fair. That's another situation where I think it could be potentially good for Carter, and it's low key out in San Jose, so there's
Right.
you don't have to worry about the media as much. So there's a lot to figure out here. But first things first, these guys got to get reinstated by the NHL after their investigation. So honestly, I don't necessarily know if I see them playing this year. I could see them kind of for conduct detrimental to the league being suspended for the entirety of the season, then getting reinstated after a year, and then we'll see where things land in that situation. But yeah, I do think these guys get another chance though.
Yeah. Let's see here. Joe's saying Hart is from the Edmonton area, so fans think he will sign there if he is allowed back. I mean, Edmonton be interesting, if they were to do that. I mean, it'd be a high pressure situation for him immediately coming back into the league. And then Swoopy was saying, do the Flyers make any trades? I guess that just depends on where they're at, come deadline time. And then Priz was saying LA. I don't know. LA, I feel like would be a little bit. Media in LA they can be a little rough. So I don't know about that one. And plus also I know the Kings don't really have a solid set in stone number one starter. So, I mean, I guess he could go there. And I know it's hockey as compared to basketball. So you do have less media scrutiny. But I still feel like LA would be a little bit risky heading down there with that kind of media. That's just me personally. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, are you going to get hounded every 5 minutes? Let's see here. Smoopy saying Jet Luchenko an important piece to the future. I think so. I think he definitely has it. I think absolutely.
Your 2C.
He's the reason why. Well, first they passed on Higgins, right? Who's another smaller size center, because they believed in Jet Luchenko and what he brings that presence, and went for Porter Martone instead. So I mean that speaks volumes, I think, in what this organization feels about Jet Luchenko.
Agreed. 100%.
Absolutely. And then Sue's got one last question before we wrap up. Will Luchenko be a third liner, second liner? What do you guys expect? Second. All right. What about you, Robbie?
So what's the question again? I'm sorry.
Will Luchenko be a third liner or a second liner?
I think third liner at first, but with a second line upside, and I think he can crack up there. I mean, potentially being that center iceman for Mitchkov if it's not Zegras.
Interesting.
Or even Dvorak, as some talk. I think, Brian, you were alluding to that earlier.
Yeah, Daily Faceoff has Coots and Dvorak as your 1 and 2 centers, starting Zegras off at the wing. But I don't know how accurate those are. So you never know. I mean, we'll realistically find out opening night what these lineups are going to look like, what these lines are going to look like.
Right. So that will pretty much take care of it. Eileen, you have a pleasant evening. And
great night, Eileen.
Yep, love to you as well. And also, love to all of you guys out there in the fam. We thank you very much for joining us once again for another bit of Flyers Talk A2D. From all of us here, we appreciate you guys. You are the lifeblood of A2D. So keep on pumping through our veins here, people. Keep it going. We love your support. And we are brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal, aches and pains. You know to go see him and his teams over in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get all the notifications. And keep in mind, it's not just hockey. There's wrestling, there's baseball, there's basketball, there's football, there's everything for everybody. It's all covered here on A2D Radio. So do not waste time. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Next week, we will continue our journey as we get closer. Oh, nope. Actually, I will correct myself. Force a habit. I apologize. So next week we are actually going to be off, and then we will come back the following week. So my bad on that one. My bad. And
I mean, I'll do a show by myself.
Okay. So
Do it.
next week.
Do it.
So next
Do
week
it.
you
Do it.
ne-
No,
next
take
week,
a break, motherfucker.
I'm taking the break. I'm taking the break.
So next week you'll just be Bri, and you can interact with
I'm
him
not
any way
allowed.
you see fit.
I will share
Ho's
this
not
with
letting
you
me.
boys from a couple different other fellow podcasters, beat writers for the Flyers have really praised us for our consistency with the podcast during very low news time for the Flyers. But I think there's always some meaty issues, and I really think we've hit the nail on the head leading into what key questions that we have for this team going into camp. What's potential players could become breakout stars we talked about today, right? We talked about last week, Brian.
Yeah. I mean, got to come up with something, right? We can't. We can't do the entire offseason off. We'll take a couple breaks here and there, but there's too much to talk about. It is definitely a slower offseason than at least I initially anticipated. But talk about breakout stars. We talked about what the lineups could potentially look like. We talked about who could be deadline targets at next year's trade deadline. So there's always some fun topics to talk about during the offseason. We always cover, news, moves, free agency signings, stuff like that. So we always got you covered. We're always here.
Absolutely. And we will continue to do that in a couple of weeks. And we are getting closer and closer to preseason, which means we are getting closer and closer to the regular season. And hey, September is here, folks. We are now getting ready to hit fall. And before you know it, we're going to be hitting October, and hockey season will be up and running and ready to go in full force. And fitting for the Orange and Black month to get the Orange and Black up and running. And we thank you for joining us. We will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy out there. We love each and every one of you, and we hope to see you next time right here on A2DRadio.com for Flyers Talk A2D. From all of us here, peace and love, everyone. Take care out there.
God bless.